Hi, and welcome back. Dark psychological trick men use on women. It is important to note that the use of manipulative or deceitful tactics in any relationship is harmful and unacceptable. These tactics can include gaslighting, manipulation, and manipulation of emotions. It is important for individuals to be aware of these tactics and to know how to protect themselves from them. The following is a list of common manipulative tactics used by some individuals, but it is not exhaustive, and it is not meant to be taken as a definitive guide. It is important to remember that these tactics are used by some individuals, not all men. It is important to be aware of these tactics and to know how to protect yourself from them. If you or someone you know is in a relationship where these tactics are being used, it is important to seek help. So let's get started with number 1. Gaslighting. This is a form of manipulation where an individual makes the victim doubt their own reality. They may deny events that have taken place or make the victim question their own memory. Love bombing. This is when an individual showers the victim with excessive attention, affection, and gifts in order to control them. Triangulation. This is when an individual brings a third party into the relationship in order to control the victim's emotions. Isolation. This is when an individual cuts the victim off from friends and family in order to control them. Guilt tripping. This is when an individual makes the victim feel guilty for not doing what they want. Emotional blackmail. This is when an individual threatens to harm themselves in order to control the victim. Fear tactics. This is when an individual uses fear to control the victim. Projection. This is when an individual projects their own feelings onto the victim. Playing the victim. This is when an individual makes themselves out to be the victim in order to gain sympathy and control. Playing the savior. This is when an individual makes themselves out to be the victim's savior in order to control them. Disguising criticism as concern. This is when an individual disguises critical or negative comments as concern in order to control the victim. Using the silent treatment. This is when an individual refuses to communicate with the victim in order to control them. Playing mind games. This is when an individual manipulates the victim's emotions through manipulation and deceit. Using the fear of loss tactic. This is when an individual makes the victim believe they will lose something important if they don't comply with their demands. Using flattery to manipulate. This is when an individual flatters the victim in order to manipulate them. Making false promises. This is when an individual makes promises they have no intention of keeping in order to control the victim. Playing the blame game. This is when an individual blames the victim for their own actions in order to control them. Using financial control. This is when an individual controls the victim's access to money in order to control them. Using coercion. This is when an individual uses threats, intimidation, or pressure to control the victim. Creating a cult-like atmosphere. This is when an individual creates an atmosphere of control and manipulation through the use of manipulation and deceit. Creating a false self. This is when an individual creates a false persona in order to manipulate the victim. Using love-hate tactics. This is when an individual alternates between showing love and hate in order to control the victim. Using shaming tactics. This is when an individual shames the victim in order to control them. Using jealousy tactics. This is when an individual makes the victim jealous in order to control them. Using sex as a weapon. This is when an individual uses sex as a means of control over the victim. That's it for this video. Please feel free to share your experiences in the comments below. Thank you for your time, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to never miss future uploads. I see you in the next video for a happier, healthier mind.